Welcome to Behind the Pages, a special segment of the Grumpily Ever After podcast. Not only does the hubby get the day off, but I get to geek out and chat with author friends about our books, telling stories, writing craft, author life, and all the other bookish things in between. So, grab a cocktail, a snack, or a cup of coffee and settle in for this extended, very special episode to get a look behind the pages. Greetings, listeners. I'm your host, Lindsay Pogue, and in this episode, I'm chatting with Demi Winters, romantic fantasy and bestselling author of the Ashen Series. If you haven't read The Road of Bones yet, you definitely should. It's a gritty Viking-inspired fantasy that has all of the, dare I say, nitty-gritty things I love in a story, including immaculate world building, epic story twists, and really slow, delicious burn. But we're not just talking about the books today. We're not just talking about the series. Today, Demi and I are talking about writing process, publishing, life as an author, the wonders of success, and how amazing our readers are. So let's take a sneak peek behind the pages, shall we? Okay, so thank you so much for taking time to chat with me. I am one of the reasons why I really wanted to chat with you. Obviously, we read one of your books in my book club that I have with my readers, but as an avid reader myself, I really, really love books that are super gritty and have that historical medieval feel, you know? So I just realized that I should introduce you first, actually. Anyways, thank you for joining me. I am talking to Demi Winters. I would love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself. I am going to leave my rambling in the beginning because that's just how I am. I am a very distracted Lindsay and I get super excited and giddy. So anyways, thank you for bearing with me. We had a lot of technical difficulties getting this started as well. Story of my life. But yeah, so we're chatting today, or I'm chatting today with Demi Winters. And do you consider yourself a historical fantasy author or a romantic fantasy author? Just out of curiosity.
I think romantic fantasy.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, the historic stuff, like I was pretty picky and choosy with what I included.
Right.
But, yeah.
But I think that's the fun part, right? I think that's why you can take stuff from history and call it the fantasy, because you get to pick and choose what you want to weave in and what you want to leave out. I think that's something that I really enjoy about reading and writing it. So
yeah, like fudge with the facts a little.
yeah. So will you just give us a little intro maybe about you, and then I can talk about the book that we read in book club, and then I can pick your brain about all my authory questions for you about, story craft and research and that sort of thing. And then I have a couple reader questions at the end from the book club that they submitted too. So
awesome. All right. Well, so I'm Demi Winters. I live in Victoria, BC with my husband and 2 kids. And I only really started writing in like 2021. So The Road of Bones is my debut. And it's been like a wild journey of what happened since self-publishing it. Basically, long story short, an agent found me, and just after I self-published the second book, we sold the entire series to Penguin Random House. So it's been a pretty
so exciting. Super exciting. So first of all, I have to comment on your amazing bookshelf that is color-coded behind you. I absolutely love it.
Thank you. I'm clearly on team rainbow bookshelves. I know it's controversial, but
no, mine's the same. Mine's the same. I mean, not the one in my office, but my fun one in the living room is definitely color-coded.
It just brings like so much joy to me to look at the rainbow.
I will admit though, if I'll forget that I have multiple books in a series sometimes if I have them color coordinated, but you know what? I'm willing to, risk that. So.
That happened to me before too. I went to go slide it in the yellow section and I was like, oh, you're already there.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's so funny. I really like to read gift books, especially if I don't think I'm going to read them again or whatever, and I enjoyed them and I want somebody else to enjoy them. So I recently gave somebody a copy of something, and then like a month later, I realized, oh, I have book 2. I didn't get so yeah, that also happens to me as well. So anyway, silliness. But yes, okay, so that is so exciting because I've been writing, self-publishing for 12 years. And it is just in the last, so you can imagine how much has changed. I mean, it's insane how much has changed in just the last decade. And then thinking about how much has changed in, the last few years, it's really exciting. I'm seeing so many indie authors getting picked up by Trad Pub, and it's super, super cool to see because that didn't used to happen very often. It was kind of like, kind of once in a blue moon sort of thing. But I'm hearing about it more and more, and I feel like it's so exciting because we get to see authors that we chat with. We get to see their books in bookstores. We get to see them in book of the month. That's how I got your book. And so my book club, how I found you was we were kind of chatting about it because I had gotten it from Book of the Month. And I was like, oh, that sounds really, really good. Oh, I'm sorry. We're talking about The Road of Bones. Sorry. The first book in the Ashen series. It was in Book of the Month, and my readers only pick things from my to be read shelf. So I give them a couple things every month to choose from. And that one was one they were like, that was hands down. Everybody wanted to read that one. So it worked out really well because, I get some books sometimes and they sit on my shelf for a year or two before I read them. So this was fun because it came in one month, read it the next, and now it's essentially maybe been another month, maybe 2, and I get to chat with you about it. So I think it's super exciting. But yeah, so they really loved it. I think they're already on finished book 2. I know the hardcover wasn't out yet, but I think they had access to the audiobook maybe or something. So everybody's already waiting for the series, the next book, which we could talk about that later. But I get really excited when my readers love the books that I read, because then they can start recommending. They start to see what I really like, what I can't find a lot of, and then they can start recommending them to me. So I would even love to ask you if any authors come to mind that you feel are kind of in this, this romantic fantasy world, but it has that gritty feel to it. It has the deep world building. And you don't have to answer on the spot, but just if that's something that, I'm always looking for more of this because I think I am a history major. That's what I got my master's degree in. And so medieval history specifically. And so I really like that rough and tumble feel. I don't really like things sugar coated. I love finding sometimes the most horrific things in history and trying to weave them into a story because it makes it so much more gripping and more terrifying because the stuff can actually happen, So I'm just always kind of looking for that. So anyways, if you come up with anything, I'm always looking for new things to add to my list.
I can definitely think of gritty ones, but like I don't know about the historically accurate, medieval.
Oh yeah, not at all. Yeah.
But for some reason, Amber V. Nicole's Book of Azrael comes to mind. That was pretty
that's
gritty.
On my list. Okay.
Yeah. It's like if you want enemies to lovers, like they literally try to kill each other. Yes. So I was like, yes, this is what I'm talking about. Because, like enemies to lovers in fantasy it hits so much differently than like contemporary romance, because I feel like in contemporary romance, they're often just kind of like a misunderstanding. But in fantasy, they're literally trying to kill each other.
I love that. I really do. And I think that's one of the reasons why, again, I've only read book 1, but why I really love The Road of Bones, because so just kind of bullets here. So it's very immersive world. It has a Viking feel to it. And it is, your character development is amazing. the twists throughout are really great, especially at the end. I don't want to give too much away, but the enemies to lovers part is I really love how you do slow burn really well. Because Axe Eyes, I was just like the whole time I was like, am I supposed to not like this guy? Because I really I'm like, I need to know more about this person. And I was just like that. Is that his name? Sorry. I just realized I haven't read it in like 2 months. So I might
yeah.
Okay.
Or Axe Eyes.
Yeah. And I was just like, you have a way of really, I don't know, just the little breadcrumbs, I don't know. I really enjoyed that. And then I think honestly, one of the coolest things, everyone loves, the evil queen after somebody. So that's a nice element. But I think for me, one of the coolest things is the way you describe your monster creature characters, because those things were terrifying. Like normally I'm reading a book and I'm sitting there thinking, oh yeah, that would be creepy if it happened. But just the way you did it so well, I was thinking like these razor sharp teeth and the red eyes and the smell. I felt like I could smell them the whole time because you were talking about how horrible they were. Oh my God.
It's so funny.
You did a great job with that.
When I came up with the vampire deer, I remember just staring off into space and I couldn't tell if it was like the stupidest idea ever. I was like, I'm just going to go with it.
No, I funny enough, I feel like there is something in nature that is actually, I think it might be a sick deer or something, but I feel like I have heard that somewhere, like that could very well like be something that's real. But I love it. And like I said, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like having it right by my face and it's smelling so bad. Like I could just really picture, it was very visceral for me. So I think you did a really good job with that. Being as you said that this is the Ashen series is your debut series, I'm assuming you have a couple more books. I know you have at least one more after this, right? You have 2 out right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a 5-book series. And then I have a novella from Hecla's point of view because it didn't fit in book 2 and it didn't fit in book 3.
Got it. Hashtag author problems, right?
Yeah, it's like I really wanted to tell this story because she's like getting her own romance arc, and so I really wanted to tell a story, but it did not fit in book 3.
Yeah,
it has to happen before book 3. So anyway, I'm hoping to self-publish that, or if Penguin wants it, they might. We'll see.
Yeah.
I just wait. It's all like a waiting game right now, but yeah. So it's 5 books all plotted out. I don't want it to go any longer than that. I don't want it to, I think 5 books is already pretty long. People are used to trilogies. I have a feeling I'm going to get a lot of questions of, wait, I thought this was going to be the last book.
Yeah. But I mean, if the story in your mind is 5 books, excuse me, then it needs to be 5 books, And who knows, by the time you get to book 4, you might be like, maybe I can just get it all in here. I mean, things just have a way of changing. I don't know. But I also know when it comes to contracts, I don't know what your options are, but maybe you have to do 5. But anyways, I think that it's hard, but I think that's one thing that's been really has been really hard over the years is readers' expectations, because especially when I have a 7-book series called the Savage North Chronicles, and I love that series, but it's 7 books. So I was ready to move on, and readers still, it's my reader favorite. Everybody's still, are you going to write more? Are you going to write more? I was like, I would love to. A part of me would love to, but I have so many other stories that I want to tell, and I'm sure you have a lot of ideas bumping around in your head a lot too. So it's hard enough just to stay focused and keep to one story and get something finished when I have so many other things I want to write. So yeah, 5 books is a lot. But I think if you can keep yourself excited, I think you'll be fine. I can tell you that I remember at the very end of The Road of Bones, after kind of the big reveal-ish, I remember thinking, damn, because there were some things that I kind of saw coming, but that was not one of them. And I feel like, I don't know, are you a plotter, or do you plot everything out? I guess you kind of have to if you're already looking at 5 books, but do you do kind of a half and half? I'm just curious if some of these things come to you as you're writing, or if you already know ahead of time.
Oh, I'm a plotter. So I
Yeah.
used to write stories when I was a kid, but I would never finish them. You know, I'd get 2 chapters in or 5 chapters in, and it would just peter out because I had no idea where I was going with this. So this time, you know, as an adult coming back to writing, I decided I wanted to try plotting and having a plan. And so I did map it out. And so I think for like The Road of Bones and Kingdom of Claw, it was pretty point format. And it was not very efficient for me. Like I wrote it and then I rewrote it. And then I did like, you know, 1,000 drafts. 1,000. I did like 1,000 drafts. And so
Yeah.
for book 3, I tried doing an extremely detailed outline, almost like a draft 0. Like everything was in point format. It had even like some dialogue, and that helped me a lot, I think.
Yeah.
So I had all of those, all the reveals. I had those all planned out. I'm glad I caught you by surprise.
No, for sure. For sure.
It's
Yeah.
hard, especially like as a debut author. It's hard to know how obvious to be in foreshadowing. And I really didn't want to give that away. But I think if you go back and read it over, there are some hints throughout, and like reading it with fresh eyes, you'd be like, oh, that makes sense now. And so does that. So yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely some things that I remember. I'm debating if I want to, I mean, I definitely want to read the next one, but I'm kind of wondering if I want to, because I just read the first one. So I don't know if I want to wait for when is book 3 coming out?
There's no release date at the moment.
Okay. I'm just curious because I'm going to want to reread them all too. So, you know, reader
and
problems.
I have included a recap at the start of Kingdom of Claw, which readers really appreciate.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
so it's helpful.
Kind of gives you like a rough overview, and I plan to do that for book 3 as well.
That's really smart.
Like, I can't remember what I read last month, let alone like a year ago.
Super smart. I wish more authors did that.
Well, and also because the books are they're complicated. Like they're twisty and layered, and
they're very twisty, and like we were saying, there's a lot of world building, and there's a lot of there's just I wish, sorry, I don't want to give any spoilers away. So okay, so you haven't written any other series. Do you, and we were kind of talking beforehand, it sounds like you don't even really have a background in writing, or how did you decide that? I mean, I know you mentioned that you wrote a lot when you were younger, but in your adult life, you haven't done any writing? Like you weren't, you know, some people are a ghostwriter, or some people are a blogger, or whatever. You just kind of completely shifted gears and you're like, this is the time I'm going to write and publish a book?
Pretty much. I mean, I have a background in science, so I did a lot of scientific writing, and then I switched to food blogging of all things. So I used to write, you know, diary style food blogger posts, and then that shifted to more technical stuff, you know, about the recipe and about the origins of the recipe and blah, blah, blah. So it was just very, very technical. So coming to fiction was just like, I can finally like be creative. And I mean, I read a lot, so I think that helps. And I have, so like when you're a voracious reader, I feel like you kind of get a sense of taste for like what you like and what your standards are. And like, I don't, you know, like this kind of writing. I mean, you know, I'm not going to speak publicly to like about it, but like you have a certain taste level. And so when I started writing, I wrote it and I was like, wow, this is garbage. I threw it out and started again. And then I hired a developmental editor, and she helped me out so much. Like I got it to where I could get it. And then I'm like, there's still problems with this, but I don't know how to fix it. And so I got a developmental editor, and she helped me a lot. And then I rewrote it again. So it looks like, you know, I got really lucky with my first book, but I worked more than 2 years on it, of like drafting and redrafting and being just completely obsessive, to be honest, with like getting my taste levels and my ability levels kind of like aligned. And so, yeah, I read a lot of craft books and sort of studied it and got a lot of outside feedback as well. I think I had to do 5 rounds of beta readers to get the Rotobones to where I was happy with the quality. And it was all because of Jonas, however you like to pronounce his name. He gave me so many troubles because it was just very subtle, finicky changes with his character that could make all the difference. Because
I can see that.
Like I had to get readers to buy into the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Then I also had to make him a bit of spoiler. I had to make him into a bit of a villain. Right. So if he's too nice, then what Scylla does is like unforgivable to her. She looks like the villain. But if he's too mean, then nobody bought in the romance. So it was like such a balancing act for him.
No, and I honestly, because I feel like I'm in the same boat. I feel like I can't read for pleasure so much anymore. I mean, I obviously do, and I try, but I feel a little more judgmental about books than I would, I think, if I wasn't an author, because I know how hard I work to put out a book and all, like how long I've been writing and all the effort. And then I read something and I'm just like, anyways, I try not to be snobby about it, but I kind of feel like at some point, I have standards as a writer and as a reader. And so that was one thing that I 100% noticed in your book, because the whole time I was reading his character, I kept thinking how well because like I was saying earlier, I knew I should like Jonas, but I also really liked Axe Eyes. I'm like, who am I supposed, like you did a really good job, but I knew that it couldn't be that way forever. So what was going to happen? And so I was, as everything unfolded, I was like, man, that worked out really well. You actually did do a really good job doing that. And so your 2 years of obsessing and your 5 beta rounds, like it really paid off, because I think authors can get lazy and they just do something that's easy, but it doesn't always benefit the story or the character. Yeah. It's like, that was way too easy, or that's completely out of character.
That was something I learned from my developmental editor, was like, because my first draft, Scylla convinced the Blood X crew to take her to Copa by cooking for them. And she's like, no. You need to make her earn this more. Like, it needs to be harder. And so then I was like, okay, what if she like blackmails Axe Eyes, and like all of this stuff came out from it.
Love it.
But yeah, like, you can have a few of those moments, or this is my experience when I'm reading, you can have a few conveniences and let it go as a reader. But then when it's so many, you're like, people don't act like this. I've completely like, I don't care that there are flying horses and like fire breathing dragons. I can't buy into this anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was something important to me, was to have like, I really wanted the reader to understand character motivations, regardless of if they're the villain or if they're, the so-called good guy.
Right.
So I feel like, everybody can understand, like, there was Jonas's behavior, like he wasn't wrong in feeling how he felt. However, he just like went way too far the other way. And on the flip side, Scylla feeling like this guy is starting to get a little too many red flags for me. You can see where she's coming from as well.
Right.
So that was my
yeah, no, I 100%. And like I said, I did notice that, and I was, because it's a fine line, right? It's a very fine line, and you did a really good job. So, and I remember thinking that, and I'm not just saying that, I really do remember thinking that as I was reading it. And now that you mentioned how much effort you put into it, I was like, well, you did it, girl. So
thank you.
Yeah. And I think that also goes into it. That's what it helps, because it deepens the character too. You add more layers to the character. It makes you be more curious about them. It makes you understand them a little bit more. And you took your time. There's nothing in this book felt rushed to me. So I think you took the time you needed to make sure that your characters made their decisions in a way that, again, wasn't just for the inconvenient or for the convenience of the plot, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
nice to hear, because I know like the story does move a little slower for some people. But I just really wanted, like I said, every character's motivations to be clear and just like everything to feel earned. I didn't want it to be insta romance for anybody.
Right.
And but it was definitely like I had to develop two different relationship things happening on different timelines. So like it was a bit of, there are a few setups that in the Road of Bones that, you'll get payoff for in Kingdom of Claw.
Right.
So
isn't it satisfying as an author to, I mean, you wrote this book, you put it out there, people, I mean, you're always gonna have people that are gonna have their own judgments and opinions about it, because that's just life. And that's, we are exposing ourselves to that, knowing, this is gonna happen. People are not gonna like my book, or they're gonna have criticisms, but people love your book. And it was in book of the month, and just like, how isn't there just, are you still giddy about all of this? Because I feel like there's just something, even when you start getting great reviews or good reviews, I don't know, I just feel like there's just something about somebody, it kind of validates your hard work, I guess. So I hope you've taken time to celebrate this in some way, because it's really easy to just be like, okay, next, I have another deadline. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's so exciting that your hard work's paying off. So.
Thank you. Yeah, when I put it out, I was like, well, I'm happy with what I put out. Like that was really important to me, that I was personally proud of what I put out. I didn't want anything to feel rushed. I didn't want it to feel like I wish I had just taken a little more time with this, because and it's so hard in the self-publishing world, because I have friends who are putting out like 5 books a year, and it's so easy to get pulled into that. But I was like, no, I just want to put out, I'm not going to put this out until I am personally happy with what I've put into it. And so when I put it out, I was like, well, I'm proud of this, regardless of what happens. And that gave me a lot of comfort. I knew there was going to be negative reviews. I didn't know how people were going to receive it, because it is a little bit slower, I think, than some romantasy books that are out there. And the romance, I was really uncertain how people are going to take that. I had like a lot of beta readers, but it's just different when you're putting it out there for like actual readers.
Yeah.
So I was very pleasantly surprised when people did like it. And I think the most important thing is just being really proud of it, because when those negative reviews do come in, I'm just kind of like, oh, you're just not the target audience. Right. Like I'm one of those weird people who I'm fine with negative reviews. Like I think it's because I have a background in science, and I'm used to having people like give me, critique my work and stuff like that. Like, I don't think that they're criticizing me, they're criticizing my work. And so I think I have that separation. But anyway, being confident in what I put out there allows me to just kind of shake it off and be like, you're not the right audience, or you just didn't get it, or I can be delusional.
No, I think that's really important, actually, because it's really easy, I think, for people or authors specifically. I mean, there's, especially with social media and everything, it can be scary to put your work out there, because again, everybody has an opinion, but at some point you're doing it because you love it. And as long as you're proud of what you're putting out and you've done, your best and what, again, you're proud of, then I don't know. I think that's really healthy, because people can get really caught up in going back. I know authors who have gone back and they've revised books because of reviews and stuff. And it's like, learn from it and move on,
that was also important to me. I just wanted to put it out there, and I didn't want to go back and revise it. Like I was saying before, I had a blog, and so like it was normal to go back and revise old posts to update them. And I was like, I never want to do this with my book. Like I want to move on to the fresh stuff. And going back and refreshing things is part of, I got like really bad burnout from it, and it's not filling my creative well. And so Yeah, and then I say this, and then because like it got picked up by a traditional publisher, then I did have to go back and do copy edits and proofreading and all. And I was like, I'm so sick of this book. I mean, I
Right?
love you, but I cannot read you again.
No, I understand that. I understand that. I think and it's a little different for me, obviously, because I self-published, but in the beginning when I was writing, I gave it so many revisions before I would put it out. And then I would, I'd do the beta rounds and then revise again. And then I would do the proofreading and then make those changes. And then I do a final read through. And by then you're just like, for the love of God, I never want to read this book again. Yeah. So I totally feel you. The longer I've been writing, my process is shortened a little bit. Don't have to read it 10, 15 times before it goes out. But yeah,
too. It's the second book, I read it less than the first book. And I was like, yeah. I almost wonder if it was a bit of a trust thing. Like I didn't trust myself the first one.
Oh, I'm sure. And yeah.
In the second one, I trusted myself a little more, but also I asked my ARC readers, like, if you notice a typo, can you tell me?
That yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something that I think you kind of hone in over time and you get a little bit better at it as the years go on in the books, you put out books, but for sure, it's definitely, I mean, it's all, you're not only learning how to, I mean, this is still, I mean, I'm always learning new stuff and, so funny. I feel like every book, there's a new issue with my writing that I'm trying to overcome. It's like, how have I been writing this long and I haven't fixed this yet in my writing or something? You know what I mean? So there's always something to learn and something to work through. And there's always challenges. And I just feel like regardless of that, my writing is getting faster, better. And it takes time, but it happens. So.
Yeah. One thing I changed with this draft is like, I don't do word counts anymore. And it's really helped me.
Nice.
I'm lucky in that I have like extremely long deadlines. I asked for that in my contract just because I was really uncertain with deadlines at all. I was like, how am I going to work creatively under a deadline? So, oh my gosh,
that's really smart.
Like, I'm not sure what I was saying.
Oh, we were just talking about, you were talking about deadlines and how this book, you haven't been reading it quite as much. And you give yourself enough time to.
Yeah, I've come to this like mindset of it's not going to be a certain amount of words. It's going to be a certain amount of time to finish the book. And so instead of counting words, I count time blocks. I aim for 6 25-minute sprints per workday. And then if I, achieve it and I'm not feeling it, then I, end. And if I'm feeling, usually what happens is by the time you get into that deep creative mindset, you want to keep going. And so but 6 feels like you still can make progress. And anyway, that's really helped me. It's just, I look at it and I'm like, wow, this is crap. And it's just, oh, I haven't put the hours into this yet. And that's all it is. It's just, it needs more hours.
That's a really cool way of looking at it. I don't necessarily I track my word count just to know what it is, but I don't give myself a word count base, for every day or whatever. I'm kind of the same, is that I block out a certain amount of time in the day. Because I don't know how you are, but I also go back and I usually reread what I wrote the day before so that I can get back in the zone. So yeah, it's hard to, I feel like if I'm sitting there and I'm tracking the word count, I mean, part of the time I'm rereading, right? So then you feel like, oh, I'm running out of time and I haven't gotten my words in or whatever, or whatever it is. I definitely think that having a chunk of time is helpful. I don't do the sprints though. I should try that. I know a lot of people do the sprints. I don't have any self-control. I don't know if I'd listen to my sprints.
Oh, well, I have been known to, have my mind wander off in the middle of one. But I just find like I'm having trouble like getting into the writing mindset in the morning. There's more and more distractions. I get pulled into my email or social media. And I just think like starting the day with like either a 15 or a 20-minute sprint, even if that is just reading over what I wrote yesterday, that just gets me in the zone. So I like, and then when you're at the end of the day, when you're like, oh, I don't have it in me. If you're just like, do a 20-minute, you can do 20 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes those last 10 minutes are painful, but like, it's easier to convince yourself to do it. But yeah.
Do you, I mean, I know that you have plenty on your plate right now and you're probably really focused on the series. Is this a genre that you want to stay in? Do you think, or
Definitely.
have you thought, do you have a bunch of similar ideas, poking around in your head for your next project, or are you just really trying to stay focused on this?
Well, I know that I won't personally be able to sit down and write anything else until the series is done. But and this is interesting because when I started writing, I didn't have any ideas. I was just like, I'm going to start writing, and slowly it built itself together, and it required like a lot of brainstorming sessions. So there was no like story rattling inside my brain when I wanted to write The Road of Bones. And I thought, well, it'll have to be like that for other books too, where I just start with nothing and build it from the ground up. But I do have an idea for something afterward. And it just like came to me. And then, while I was reading, and then it's kind of evolved a few times. And now it's like a document with notes. And so like, I don't know, we'll see what.
Interesting. Maybe be a completely different process next time, huh?
Maybe, yeah. And it will be nice. But that would be nice if I'm just sort of like thinking about it, 5 minutes away.
You're slowly plotting it for 3 years from now or whatever.
Yeah.
That's not a bad way to do it.
Yeah. And then like the problem is I see a lot of people who want to continue with their next, book or series in traditional publishing, and their editor will ask them for like multiple ideas. And at this point, I'll just be like, I only have one idea. I mean, I have like a document full of ideas, but they're all just very line throwaways.
Right. Right. No, I get it. I feel you on that. Is there something that you have found that when you are writing that you particularly love to do? Like for instance, I love world building. I enjoy I enjoy a lot of things, but world building and figuring out what the setting is going to be for me and why, because I write a lot of weather ravaged worlds, so a lot of I always Mother Nature is always one of the biggest villains in my story, because I think that on top of having the enemy and the villain, having something that is completely outside of everyone's control is kind of terrifying. And so for me, I get super giddy and excited about that. Is there anything for you, any part of the process? I mean, it could be writing dialogue for anything that you just get really excited to do.
I do love the world building. And I enjoy coming up with the characters and their personalities. But it's like not always a fun process though, if that makes sense. Like, yes. So I'll write the character and I'll be like, there's something missing. Like, I feel like I don't know this character yet. And then when it clicks, that's like my favorite. It clicks. And
it's like a high, huh? You get like a little high off of it. You're like, oh my God, yes. The planets are aligning.
So I love that. I do love writing banter. Sometimes it flows easily and sometimes it's harder, but like it's fulfilling to me. And one of my favorite things to read as well is the banter between characters.
Yeah, I always feel like there is always a character I gravitate towards. Was there a character? Sorry, this is not on the questions I gave you, but now I'm just diverting here. Is there any character that you always got kind of giddy about writing?
I always loved writing Ray in The Road of Bones, because I was like, I have a secret that you don't know. And I just loved writing him. Also because he's just so grumpy.
Yes.
Like, secretly, he's quite a softie, but he's just like he's like a teddy bear.
He has a lot going on in that brain of his. So yeah, he's allowed to be grumpy.
My favorite character to write of all time. Like I've got 2 books.
No. I get what you mean, though. I get what you mean.
Is Cassander Burrick, and you'll meet him in Kingdom of Claw. And he is a super impulsive, does everything by the feeling in his heart kind of guy. But he makes bad choices sometimes, and he is complete chaos. And he always throws like chaos grenades into my writing plans. But I've just learned to go with them, because sometimes those are his best moments.
Yeah.
He's
See where he
super fun.
takes you. Well, that's exciting. Yeah, now that the hardcover's out, I mean, I have this one, right? I have this hardcover, so I didn't want to go. I wasn't gonna go get a paperback or anything. I needed another hardcover, so I had to wait for that to come out. So I have to get that now. But I think I'm gonna have to read it.
I'm just looking for it. Between us, there's going to be a book of the month, Kingdom of Claw.
Okay, oh my gosh. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, I just got mine on Friday, I think. So it'll be an add-on, not a book, not a monthly pick, because I can't imagine them having the second book in a series as a monthly pick. Because
is that how they decide that? Okay, I was always kind of wondering, because I would go and add something to my box, and then I'm like, wait, where did that book come from? I never saw that one. Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, there's an add-on section.
Yeah,
they have good ones in the add-ons. I'm just like honored, because I don't know if you can see, but I have a lot of book of the month books on my.
Yeah, I do. I see the little banner. Yeah.
So like I've been a subscriber of theirs for a while, and I was floored when I heard they were going to do Bones, because it was really great exposure. I mean, you found the book through them and so many others, and I'm just really grateful.
Yeah. Well, you worked really hard for it, so like I said, it seems like all the planets are aligning for you. I feel like you've kind of answered this question. This is a reader question. But Angela said that she would be very keen to know where the inspiration came from for this series. And I know you said that you didn't really start with an idea, but it kind of percolated and you brainstormed and you figured it out. Is there anything you kind of want to add to that?
Yeah, I got the idea for the setting from watching drone footage of a volcano erupting in Iceland. And I was like, Iceland is so stunning, and it's got fire and glaciers and black sand beaches, fjords. And I was like, okay, it's going to be set in Iceland. And so that like led to Vikings and all sorts of things. And then there were some books that influenced me. The Handmaid's Tale influenced me with the like regime and the brutal public executions. And like there's a scene in The Handmaid's Tale where all the handmaidens have to like partake in an execution. And I thought that was so brutal that of course I wanted to do that.
Of course. I'm telling you, man, this stuff that's why I love this really gritty, but I say gritty because it's just it's so dark and dirty and horrifying, I mean, and I'm not talking, slasher horrifying. It's just, I don't know. But I love it. So.
Yeah, well, that was inspired by Margaret Atwood. So then, well, I don't know if I should say this, but Neil Gaiman's book, American Gods. I just said that because, everything going on with him now. It's like, looking back on his books, it just feels
there's only you can't take it out of history, right? Yeah.
No. So reading his book helped me like connect all the dots between my books, and they helped me understand what I was working towards, which is like a Ragnarok type event. And that was like one of the few aha moments I recall having. I read his book and it's nothing like The Road of Bones at all, except for there are some like Norse god influences in his book. And it was one of the few aha moments I can recall having of just, this is exactly how what we're going towards. Okay, I got it now. And then the last book it's like a series, The Way of Kings, The Stormlight Archives by Brendan Sanderson. And just the way he incorporated his flora and fauna and his magic system and the weather, and everything was so interconnected. And I loved that so much. And it inspired me to kind of go deeper into my world building with, the luminescent mushrooms and the moonflowers and all the kind of like little details like that.
I love that. Yeah, that's really, really cool. I haven't read any Brandon Sanderson yet. I have books of his on my shelf, but I have not read any yet. But
yeah, they're intimidating to get into, but you might like the Stormlight Archives because, as the title might imply, the weather actually like recharges his magical powering objects. So like they have these stones and they have to set them out during a storm, and like the magic of the storm like recharges them. It's very cool.
That is really cool, actually. That actually makes me really excited. And of course, I don't have any of those books on my shelf.
Of course. Do you have Just Born?
I do have that. I do have that series. I also, my the series that I have, I was talking about the 7-book series that is a reader favorite. It's post-apocalyptic, but has a fantastical element to it. People, they have this, they have a fever and most people die. But the people that survive, they're genetically changed. And so they have sort of like, we'll just say some of them they're kind of X-Men powers, but some of them are very nuanced. Some of them are really in your face, but that brings in a whole other side of, good versus evil or good and bad, because you have people who survive that can do good things with what happens with them and bad things on top of they're trying to survive in the Arctic and all these things. So but the reason why I'm bringing it up is because it gets compared to Stephen King, The Stand, and Firestarter all the time. And which is, I'm fine with that. I have zero qualms with that, but I've never read Stephen King. So I also have some of his books on my shelf that I need to read too.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like I should at least do the ones that they're compared to, so I can at least have something to say other than okay.
Yeah. There's pros and cons, because like I came up with this Icelandic world, and I was like, I've never seen a fantasy world set in a place like Iceland before, and then I picked up John Gwynn's book, Shadow of the Gods, and it was like Iceland. Clearly it was inspired by Iceland. There were Vikings, and he does his Viking stuff like so well. And I had this moment of, I wish I didn't see this.
Yeah.
Because now I'm questioning, like, should I change everything? And there were even like some weird similarities. Then I was just like, you know what? I came up with this on my own. I'm gonna keep it. And I have seen some people be like, it's kind of like Shadow of the Gods. And I'm like, no, I should have changed it. But
yeah, but there's only so much you can do. One of the series that I co-authored is called the Ending Series, and we published it 12 years ago. So before Nora Roberts put out her, I don't know what the actual series name is called, but year 1 is, I think, anyways, it's very similar to our series, but we wrote ours over a decade ago. So, people compare them and it's like, I don't know what to tell you. I know she's a bigger name, but our book came out way sooner. And then, also writing post-apocalyptic for some of my stuff, because I write like dystopian historical fantasy, but then I also write post-apocalyptic, and again, all the weathery stuff. But oh my God, where was I going with this?
Similarities.
Yeah, I don't know. It was something about, because the 7-book series, the Savage North Chronicles, and the one that's like Nora Roberts, there's this virus, right? And people write about viruses all the time, but there were so many things that during COVID, everyone was like, these authors are just trying to capitalize on COVID. And I'm like, this was written a decade ago. Like, I don't know what to tell you. So, there's only so much you can control,
Yeah, I know. I'm just like, I came up with it on my own.
Yeah.
I know it,
Yeah.
and it's just weird how two different people can have such similar ideas
Yeah.
completely independently. It's weird. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. I know. But they also say, what do they say? Like, no idea is really original or whatever. I guess it's, I don't know. But yeah, it's, I've also worried about that too. Just, I guess it's a risk
You
that
can
we
say that yours was published first.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you saw recently, there was some stuff on TikTok with like people accusing Victoria Avillard, I don't know how to say her name,
Yeah, okay.
of like ripping off another author, but like Victoria's book came out 10 years earlier. And everyone's like, can you guys not read the publication date? Like,
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think it's just something that we run into, you know. It is what it is, but I get scared about that stuff too.
Yeah.
It's like, and I think that's why, even though I love history, I think that's why I never say I write historical fiction, because I take parts of history and I twist it to accommodate my story and my imagination, you know?
Yes.
So, but I also don't want to not put it in there because I'm so fascinated by things, you know? So I don't know. I just think we just have to roll the dice and see like how things pan out and hope for the best half the time. We can only make so many educated decisions, right?
Right.
But anyway. Okay, so I think you already, one of the questions that I had was when the next book, so the third book was going to come out, but you said there's no release date yet. So we got that one answered. And then
I'm hard at work on it now. I'm just finishing up the first round of developmental edits. So then it will go back to my editor, and then we'll do one more, and then it'll go for copy edits and stuff like that. So like, I'm making progress. There's
yeah,
manuscript.
You mean you're not just sitting around?
I'm not just sitting around, even though, because I get asked about it a lot, but I don't have a date. And I'm really glad that, you know, they're not giving me a date until I'm comfortable. So
right. That's amazing.
Huge. Yeah.
And then again, I don't know if you can answer this. I think I put this in the email, but a reader was asking if you're going to try and redeem Jonas, if he can even be redeemed. So I don't know if you can answer that or if you want to, but that was one of the reader questions.
I will just say that his story is not done. His story is not over. I will also say the original plan was to kill him in the Road of Bones. And I'm really glad I didn't, because he's proven to be an interesting character. And yeah.
Okay. I think that's a very great answer. And it makes me and readers will be very curious to know how that pans out then.
It's always good to have a character that the readers hate as well. So
yeah,
you're going to hate him for a little while.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So is there anything else that you'd like to share before I let you go? Anything coming up, or any events, or if there's a specific location where you hang out on the interwebs that you want to send readers to, or anything?
Sure. So Kingdom of Claw is re-releasing through Penguin and in the UK through Golan's. So it'll be available in bookstores again, and it will be available in ebook again. And it's just been not available in certain regions. It's just like navigating all of this new publishing stuff. I didn't realize that like US publishers have certain regions and the UK publisher has certain regions, and they didn't decide to all make the ebook available. So anyway, everything will be available again on February 4th,
Thanks.
as well as the hardcovers. And I can be found on Instagram and TikTok, so long as TikTok is still around.
Who knows?
Yeah, I know, right? And my newsletter. And yeah, I have an active Discord group as well.
All right, I'll go ahead and put links to all that in the show notes as well, so they can easily click and find you.
Awesome. Oh, I'm also going to Romantasy Book Con in LA at the end of February. So it'll be my first ever book con. I'm like a little baby author going to her first book con. I signed up for a panel, so like wish me luck.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I'm talking about world building, so it's going to be fun, and I'd love to meet people there if anyone's going.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you very, very much. I appreciate you being patient with our technical difficulties in the beginning, which led me to have an extremely scattered brain because nothing started out the way it was supposed to.
No worries, like no worries at all.
Yeah. So anyways, well, thank you very much. And to all of you listening, I will see you next time. Well, that's a wrap on this episode of Grumpily Ever After. Whether you're here for the book talk or the banter, we appreciate you. If you enjoyed our brand of chaos, don't forget to subscribe and join us next time for more book chats and married mayhem. Stay grumpy, stay bookish, and we'll catch you next time.